I want to take you back in history, a small republic called East Turkestan. There it is on the map, top left, as you see from China down below. Squished between Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, China, the region was a republic until 1949 when it became a part of China. Today, the East Turkestan government is in exile, residing in Washington, D.C., led by Salih Hudayar, the Prime Minister since 2019, and he joins us now. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start off. Do you draw any similarities, would you say, between what happened to your territory way back in 1949 to what we're seeing at the moment between Russia and Ukraine?
Absolutely. I mean, both situations were a belligerent invasion by, an aggressive neighbor. In our case, it was China. In today's case, with Ukraine, it's Russia. Unlike the situation with Ukraine, we never received any support from the international community. In fact, the international community pretty much turned a blind eye to it. You could say even before China's invasion of East Turkestan in 1949 at the Yalta Conference, East Turkestan's future was pretty much sold away by the great powers at the time.
And do you believe that that was because they were so exhausted by what had happened until 1945 that there just wasn't the political will or the interest from the people compared to what we're seeing now, where maybe people in the US and Europe and the Western world are concerned that this is the beginning of something as we may have seen in the late 1930s?
I think so, yes. East Turkestan was very far remote from, the Western world. Two, the international community at that time had just gotten out of, the World War II. So I believe that's part of the reason is that, they didn't want to get embroiled into another hot conflict.
Yeah. Prime Minister, do you fear that the world is dividing into two right now, those who are with the West and those who are with Russia and China? Where's it going?
Unfortunately, yes, that is the situation at the world. You see many of the European countries and other countries that, uphold human rights and democracy, like Japan and Australia, and among others, siding with the West. And then you have more, authoritarian regimes or, countries that really don't care about human rights, like the countries in the Middle East, like Iran. Even Saudi Arabia recently, aligning itself with China and Russia as this situation progresses, which is very dangerous in both one way, but at the same time, I think it's something that was inevitable.
I mentioned at the beginning with that map exactly where East Kyrgyzstan is. Talk to us about what you see that region playing out, because China has territorial borders with every one of its neighbours, particularly focused on India. Your thoughts about what's happening there, and keeping in mind that both the Indian Prime Minister as well as the Chinese President have pretty good relationships with Russia.
Yes, East Turkestan, is very strategically located, as you can see, bordering 10 different countries, including China. And China is using East Turkestan as essentially a stepping board to encroach into other territories, countries. Not only is China, have territorial claims over India, but it also has territorial claims over many of these Central Asian republics. Some of them which have, relations with Russia. So at the same time, it also is, claiming parts of Russia. So this is a very weird situation for Russia. But as many, foreign experts and others, commentators have stated, I think this is about, a friendship of necessity, not really of, ideology or true friendship. It's just Russia needs, China to push itself against the West, and China needs Russia to, keep the West busy.
Yeah, let's talk diplomacy about the Muslims now in Western China. You've been really outspoken, particularly about genocide, as well as what you call China's propaganda as well. What would you say are your concerns at the moment?
Well, the genocide is still continuing. For example, right now is Ramadan. In Ramadan, the Chinese government, people are supposed to abstain, from drinking and eating or doing anything, otherwise known as sinful, or engaging in relations and so forth. But the Chinese government right now, it's forcibly feeding people in East Turkestan, preventing them from uh, fasting during Ramadan. Mosques and all that are completely been banned since 2016. Prayers have been banned. You still have millions of people that are currently locked up in these concentration camps, in these prisons. Millions more are being continue to be used as forced labor or slave labor, making cheap products. The situation is not improving. It's deteriorating day by day. You have tens of thousands of Chinese colonists being settled into East Turkestan every single day, and you don't see any outcry from the Muslim world. Again, because the world has been divided to where China has been, giving a lot of economic and other deals to these nations, majority Muslim nations, to where they are selling out their own co-religionists in favor of, economic benefits from China.
So, Prime Minister, do you see a bit of a double standard then between Western support for Ukraine and then a lack of attention for minorities in East Turkestan as well, in the western provinces of China, in the sense that we have seen, of course, boycotts of the Beijing Olympic Games. We have seen a UN report about the Uyghur population too. But do you still believe that there is a double standard?
Absolutely. For example, you see the international community holding, Russia accountable, sanctioning Russia's leaders, its corporations at every level. But you don't see that happening when it comes to China, despite the fact that even like the U.S. government and many European parliaments have officially designated China's atrocities in East Turkestan as genocide. In addition to that, China is, many of these Western nations have stated that China is the biggest threat to their national security, yet they're not acting against this big threat in any meaningful way, other than stating that they have this threat and, issuing either low-level sanctions or just condemnations.
Where does it go from here?
Well, I mean, the international community needs to act before it's too late, because at every moment that we fail to address the ongoing genocide in East Turkestan, address China's occupation of East Turkestan, and take meaningful action to stop it, China is going to get more and more powerful. And we see this day by day. They're increasing their military spending. They're increasing, they're advancing rapidly in terms of technology, in terms of
which you would imagine when you're seeing this, it's only going to make those conversations about minorities become even more difficult through time as well. We have to leave it there and wrap it up at the moment. Salih Hudaya, I really appreciate your time. The Prime Minister in exile there in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That is a program for now. I'm Aaron Young. I do hope to see you soon.
You're watching Ticker News. More news is just minutes away.